The night was heavy with an unsettling stillness as I sat in my dimly lit living room, engrossed in an old book. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, making me feel like I was in a scene from a Gothic novel. The clock struck midnight, and a shiver ran down my spine. It was then that I heard a faint, almost imperceptible sound, a soft tapping on my window. Startled, I glanced towards the window, my heart pounding. The tapping persisted, rhythmic and deliberate. I cautiously approached the window, the tapping growing louder with each step. My breath hitched as I pulled aside the heavy curtain, revealing a sight that would forever haunt my dreams. There, standing in the darkness, were two figures dressed in black suits that seemed to absorb the very light around them. Their faces were obscured by featureless, shadowy hats that concealed their identities. Fear clawed at my throat as I stared at them, frozen in place. Without warning, the taller of the two figures raised a gloved hand and pointed directly at me. The gesture was chillingly deliberate, as if they had known I was watching all along. My heart raced, and I stumbled backward, tripping over a chair in my frantic attempt to retreat. As I hit the floor, a thought struck me like lightning. The stories, the urban legends about the men in black. My mind raced as I scrambled to my feet. I stumbled over to the front door, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the locks. Panic set in as I felt the presence of the two figures drawing closer, their footsteps muffled yet distinct. I finally managed to wrench the door open, my heart pounding against my ribs. Before me stood the two men in black, their expressions impossible to discern under the shadowy brims of their hats. The taller one extended a hand towards me, palm up, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. It was as if his gesture was a command, compelling me to stay put. "Why are you here?" I managed to croak, my voice betraying my fear. The figure in front, the one who seemed to be the leader, tilted his head slightly, and I felt his gaze bore into me. His voice was like a whisper carried on the wind, cold and emotionless. "We are here to ensure that certain truths remain hidden, to safeguard secrets that are beyond mortal comprehension." My mind raced as I tried to make sense of his words. What truths? What secrets? And why did they involve me? "You will not remember this encounter," the figure continued, his voice sending shivers down my spine. "Your memories will fade, and you will be left with nothing but a sense of unease, a vague feeling that something is amiss." I shook my head, my fear turning to anger. "I won't forget. I won't let you erase my memories." The other figure stepped forward, his movements eerily fluid. "Resistance is futile. Our methods are beyond your understanding." As he spoke, a strange sensation enveloped me, a buzzing in my head, a pressure that seemed to push against my thoughts. My vision blurred and the room spun around me. I fought to hold on to my memories, to my sense of self, but it was like trying to grasp smoke. And then, darkness. When I awoke, I was back in my chair, the book still open in my lap. The candle had burnt out, and the room was bathed in the cold light of dawn. I sat there, my mind in a whirl, trying to piece together what had happened. Had it all been a dream, a figment of my imagination? But as I reached for my phone to check the time, a strange symbol caught my eye. A mark etched onto the back of my hand, faint and almost imperceptible. It was then that I realized that the encounter had been real, that the men in black had visited me, and that they had left their mark on me. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being monitored by unseen eyes. The memories of that night were fading, just as the figure had said they would, but the mark on my hand remained, a constant reminder of the encounter that defied all reason. And so, I am left with a chilling awareness that there are truths beyond our comprehension, secrets that are guarded by enigmatic figures who exist in the shadows. The men in black had come, and though my memories may have faded, the unease lingers, a reminder that there are forces at play beyond the scope of human understanding. The night was unusually cold and eerie when I heard a faint knock on my door. Glancing at the clock, I realized it was well past midnight. Who could be visiting at this hour? I shuddered, anxiety coiling like a snake in my stomach as I cautiously approached the door. With each step, my heart raced, its rhythm like the ominous beat of a distant drum. As I cracked the door open, a gust of wind rushed in, carrying a scent of something indescribable, sharp, metallic, and cold. My eyes widened in shock. Standing before me were three men, dressed entirely in black suits that seemed to absorb the very light around them. Their skin was as pale as moonlight, their eyes hidden behind reflective sunglasses. I couldn't help but feel a wave of unease wash over me, like I had stepped into a surreal nightmare. "Good evening," the one in the middle said, his voice devoid of emotion. "May we come in?" I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to slam the door shut, but curiosity and fear kept me rooted in place, and I reluctantly stepped aside to let them enter. The moment they crossed the threshold, a chilling sensation gripped the air, causing goosebumps to prickle on my skin. "We apologize for the intrusion," the man continued, his lips barely moving as he spoke. "We've been monitoring your activities for quite some time." My mind raced, trying to comprehend the meaning behind his words. What could they possibly want from me? I opened my mouth to ask, but the man raised a gloved hand to silence me. "We have questions that require your cooperation," he said, his gaze never leaving mine. "Questions about an event you witnessed last week, near the old abandoned factory." A shiver ran down my spine. I had seen something that night, something I had tried to forget. The memory had haunted my dreams, lurking in the shadows of my mind. "What do you want to know?" I managed to whisper. The man's lips twitched slightly as if forming a semblance of a smile. "Tell us everything you saw. Leave nothing out." With each word I spoke, the atmosphere in the room grew more oppressive. I recounted the details of that fateful night, the strange lights, the distorted figures moving in the darkness, the overwhelming sense of dread that had consumed me. "Interesting," another one of the men remarked, his voice as hollow as the wind. "And what emotions did you experience during this encounter?" I blinked, taken aback by the question. "Fear. Pure terror," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I've never felt anything like it before. It was as if they could see right through me, into the depths of my soul." The man's sunglasses seemed to gleam in the dim light as he leaned closer. "Fear is a powerful emotion, isn't it? It can reveal things about ourselves that we might not even be aware of." Their questions continued, probing deeper into my psyche, unraveling the threads of my thoughts and memories. It was as if they were peeling away the layers of my mind, exposing me to a reality I could barely comprehend. As the hours passed, my fatigue mingled with the growing sense of unease. These men in black were not ordinary investigators. Their presence felt otherworldly, as if they were emissaries from a realm beyond human understanding. Finally, they stood up, their movements fluid and coordinated. "Thank you for your cooperation," the first man said, his gaze piercing through me. "We will be watching." With those ominous words, they turned and walked out of my apartment, leaving behind a lingering chill that clung to the air. I collapsed onto the couch, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and questions. Who were they? What did they want with me? And why did they seem to have a fascination with fear? Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that night continued to haunt me. I tried to return to my normal routine, but an unshakable sense of dread lingered, like a shadow that refused to be dispelled. And then, one night, as I lay in bed, a sensation washed over me, a feeling that I was being watched. I turned towards the window, my heart pounding, only to catch a glimpse of 3 figures standing on the rooftop across the street. They were unmistakable. Men in black suits, their eyes hidden behind reflective sunglasses. In that moment, I knew that they were always there, lurking in the shadows, unseen but ever present. They were the custodians of fear, the guardians of the unknown. And I had unwittingly become entangled in their enigmatic web. As fear tightened its grip around me once again, I realized that some secrets were meant to remain buried. Some mysteries were better left unexplored. For in the depths of the unseen, where the men in black roamed, there were truths that could shatter the very fabric of reality. The rain pelted against the window pane, creating a rhythmic dance of droplets that matched the unsettling rhythm of my racing heart. I sat alone in my dimly lit apartment, engrossed in conspiracy theories about the supernatural and the unexplained. Little did I know that the chilling events I had only read about were about to become my own reality. It all began when I stumbled upon a series of online forums discussing encounters with enigmatic figures known as the Men in Black. According to these stories, these mysterious individuals would appear after someone had experienced a UFO sighting or some other unexplainable phenomenon. With their dark suits, pale complexions, and unsettling demeanor, the men in black struck fear into the hearts of those they encountered. As the night grew darker, my curiosity spiraled into obsession. I couldn't resist diving deeper into these accounts, convinced that they were just the stuff of urban legends. But then, a loud knock on my door shattered my concentration, making me jump in my seat. I peered through the peephole, my heart pounding as I saw two tall, identical figures standing in the hallway. They wore black suits that seemed almost too perfect, their eyes hidden behind pitch-black sunglasses despite the darkness outside. Panic gripped me as I realized that these were the men in black from the stories. I hesitated, debating whether to answer the door or pretend I wasn't home. Before I could decide, the knocking came again, more insistent this time. My fingers trembled as I turned the doorknob, allowing them to step inside my apartment. The air seemed to grow colder, and a tense silence settled over the room. The two men surveyed my small living space with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. My voice caught in my throat as I finally managed to stammer out a greeting. "Mr. Anderson, we've been monitoring your recent interests," one of them said in a monotone voice that sent chills down my spine. How do you know my name?" I stammered, my mind racing. "We know a great deal about you," the other replied, his tone equally devoid of emotion. I swallowed hard, my fear intensifying with every passing moment. They seemed to know everything about me, and that realization was paralyzing. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in on me as their presence dominated the space. "We're here to discuss your research into certain matters," the first man said, his lips barely moving. I watched as they produced a folder, placing it on the table between us. Inside were printed copies of the very forum posts and articles I had been reading. My heart pounded even harder as I realized that they had been watching my online activity. "We strongly advise against delving any further into these subjects," the second man said, his tone an unsettling mix of warning and threat. "Why? What's so dangerous about seeking the truth?" I managed to muster the courage to ask. The men exchanged a brief glance before turning their attention back to me. Their gazes seemed to bore into my very soul, and I felt a cold sweat forming on my brow. "Some truths are not meant for human comprehension," the first man replied cryptically. "And those who seek to uncover them often find themselves in grave danger," the second added. A shiver ran down my spine as the implications of their words sunk in. Were they implying that I was in danger because of my research? What kind of secrets could be so horrifying that they warranted their intervention? As the encounter continued, my fear began to mingle with a growing anger. Who were these men to dictate what I could and couldn't explore? I mustered my courage and demanded answers, my voice quivering but resolute. "Who are you? What gives you the right to control what I investigate?" The two men shared a glance, their expressionless faces seemingly unfazed by my outburst. After what felt like an eternity, the first man finally spoke. "We are simply here to maintain order and protect certain aspects of the world that should remain hidden. Our methods may seem extreme, but they are necessary." With that, they rose from their seats and began to leave. I was left in stunned silence, my mind reeling from the encounter. The room felt emptier than before, a lingering sense of foreboding hanging in the air. In the days that followed, I grappled with the haunting experience of encountering the men in black. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that every move I made was being monitored. Fear and curiosity warred within me, but I knew one thing for certain: I couldn't let their warnings stop me from seeking the truth. As I continued my research, the sense of unease never truly left me. Every knock on the door, every unfamiliar face in the crowd, left me wondering if they were watching, waiting for me to cross some invisible line. The men in black had left an indelible mark on my psyche, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge could lead down paths darker and more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. And yet, despite the fear, I couldn't ignore the pull of the unknown, the irresistible need to uncover the secrets that lay just beyond the surface of reality.